I'm bored. Let's read a book. Oh!
Hey guys, just a quick heads up before I start the video. This is going to be 2 parts, so it's going to be 2 chapters because the first one was only 2 minutes, and the second one was also fairly short, so I'm just going to have a little transition in the middle telling you what chapter's what. Now, on to the video. The woman in gray watches the roadside from the bench seat of the wagon, holding her staff tightly in one hand. She tries not to think about the similarity between the rolling of the wagon and the motion of the cargo ship that had so recently carried her to Kandar. On either side of the road, the dull gray-brown of damp and rotting grass, interspersed with the patches of black weeds, stretches to the hills on the north and the horizon to the south. Beyond the southern horizon lies the Ohide River and the point where her journey will end, Hydalar, where the road and the river meet. Ahead on the road, she sees 3 thin figures. Their ragged and uneven walk like that of so many others that she and the wagon have passed. Crack! Hiya, hiya, rumbles the driver without looking at the whip as he cracked toward the 2 draft horses pulling the now empty wagon that had carried cabbages and potatoes. He wears a heavy belt filled with more than gold, and a cocked crossbow rests on a stand to his right. See anything, Maga? On the road ahead, the 2 younger men ride a pair of rail-thin horses. The sandy-haired one bears a long rifle, good only against the desperate, but necessary on the road they travel. Beyond the 3 figures that the wagon lumbers around, she can sense only the emptiness and another set of minds, trudging away from Freetown and the soggy desperation of too much rain and too little sunlight. Nothing except more hungry people. Good for us, at least, rumbles the driver. Never got so much for cabbages or potatoes. She grips her staff and tries not to think about either ships or the gnawing pains in the minds and bellies of the vacant-eyed men and women and children stumbling along the road toward the sunlight of Hydalar. Sirs, the doorway, please! A pleading voice came from what I first took to be a pile of rags and blankets. The stable boy had heaped a worn saddle blanket over a pile of rags and burrowed his own tattered leathers underneath. He was huddled in a nook where he could watch the big sliding door. Beyond him loomed Antonin's coach, not quite lit by an internal flame. Of course, I found myself saying as I quickly slid the heavy slab back into place and plunged the stable back into gloom. The doorway creaked and rattled in the wind. The darkness didn't bother me, since I didn't seem to need much light to see by any more. Turning toward Justin, I had found he had left Bill and walked toward the stalls in the rear. Gerlach was still double-stalled with the other mountain pony, dark gray with creamy mane. Good girl. I should have guessed. Yours? Justin nodded. Gerlach's male. That won't matter for now. Rosefoot's pretty tolerant. She likes company. Where'd you get him from? Freetown. Justin nodded again. Thought so. It'd be odd for them to have a mountain pony, though. The liveryman led me to believe that was why I could afford him. Mean-tempered. I rescued him from the glue pots. I shrugged. That was what they told me, anyway. I shivered. The stable was cold. Not so bad as outside, but not a whole lot warmer than an ice house. Justin climbed onto the half wall that separated the stalls. To our right was a tall mare who turned her head in our direction skittishly. A white blaze covered her forehead. The gray wizard crouched on the stall half wall, and eased toward the outside wall. Just above him was a squarish opening, partly framed with hay wisps. He stood up in the opening, his head out of sight. With a sudden jump, he pulled himself up into the space above the stalls. "Come on, youngster, and bring that staff you hid next to your pony. They'll rest better. So will you." He disappeared, and I could hear the rustle of straw and hay. "How? Can't you sense it?" His voice was muffled. He was right, though. When I tried to reach out and feel for the staff, like far-seeing, it almost burned into my brain. I grabbed the half wall for support. After a moment, I reached down and reclaimed the dark staff. To my hand, the wood held only a faintly reassuring warmth. Gerlach tossed his head more than a nod. It had to be a coincidence. "Are you coming, young man?" With a second thought, I reached down and grabbed my pack as well, brushing off the straw and slinging it half over my right shoulder. I clambered up onto the wall, then scrambled far less gracefully than the Grey Wizard, up through the square opening. The dust will settle shortly. Justin had pulled off his boots, and his belt was piling more of those loose hay into a bed. "We're staying here? You can stay where you want. I prefer not to stay under the same roof as Antonin. I sleep better." I sighed. There it was again. More assumptions, more statements, and no explanations. "Could you explain a few things to me?" Justin stretched out on a cloak that was suddenly more than twice its original size, and looked to be twice as thick. "A few, if it doesn't take too long. I'm tired, and I intend to leave early tomorrow. I'm headed toward a little hamlet called Wivet, then to Jellicoe. Jellicoe's the town where Viscount of Syrtis reigns. Once upon a time, Hewlett belonged to Syrtis, but nobody remembers. Back then it all was sheep, and no one really cared, even before the Deadlands. New Hewlett belongs to Montgren, and no one really cares except the Countess." I frowned, trying to sort out my questions. Finally, I gave up. "You said my soul was in danger from Antonin. Why? I mean, how could he have hurt me that way?" Momentarily, the wind picked up, and the ice chunks rattled against the roof overhead. Justin wrapped the overlarge cloak around himself. "Take off your boots. Your feet need the air." He shrugged, trying to make himself more comfortable on the straw. "Antonin's the strongest of white magicians, a chaos master, if you will. Wielding chaos is extraordinarily hard, and both body and soul. And most white magicians die young. Powerful, but young. Antonin and Gerlis, and by now I would suspect Cephia, have attained the power to somewhat postpone their early demise by transferring their personality and ability to other younger bodies, preferably to bodies already equipped with the talent and unaware for their own defenses. You fit that bill admirably. That's why I decided to move you away from Antonin, who is preoccupied by Cephia and her situation. He didn't really sense you. Your innate defenses are good enough to conceal you from a quick look." I shivered again. "Thank you." I shrugged and eased off one boot, realizing that while the ice and rain hadn't gotten through the thick leather, my feet were indeed damp. The second boot came off easier, but my left foot was just a trace smaller than my right anyway. "Oh, don't thank me. I did it for me, not you. None of us gray magicians could afford to have Antonin controlling a body with your talent powers. His knowledge is already too great." "What do you intend, then?" "You can devise your own destiny once we're clear of Antonin. Tomorrow, assuming you're willing, on the way to Jellicoe, I'll teach you enough to allow you to block anyone from taking over your body without your consent. Plus, if there's time, a few other tricks that are pure black and won't prejudice your decision." my decision. My words were grunted as I levered off my right boot. When you intended to be black, gray, or white magician, I yawned. I am tired and so are you. Get some straw and go up to sleep. Rosefoot will certainly let us know if anyone tries to climb up here. So will your pony and your staff. Good night. He rolled over and left me sitting in a pile of straw, my pack and boots by my feet, my head twirling with an unasked question, and my thighs aching from too much riding. For all the aches and questions, I was asleep before long, listening to the woo, rat-tat-tip-tat of the wind, ice, and snow, even as I wondered who Justin really was and whether I should trust him. But I slept anyway. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on any of these videos. See y'all in the next one. Goodbye!